making a relational database and Radiant content management system using radius tags and a couple of extensions. So these are the two extensions that are required. We've got the Radiant Relations extension, and we've got the Radiant Page Parts extension. So I've made an example relational database in Radiant. It's an employee database, and it's got employees and the computer hardware that they're using. So firstly, we'll look at employees. We've got three tiers here. So we've got employee at the top, then the type of employee, and then the individual employees themselves with an ID. Under hardware, we've got hardware in three tiers. Hardware at the top, then we've got the type of hardware, three types, and then the individual items. And these individual items are allocated to employees. We've also got departments, so there's two departments. Looking at the database first, let's look at hardware. And there's our hardware. We've got as each record the individual employee, and then we've got their ID, their name, and then information about their different items of hardware. That same information is available for each employee. So for example, the senior manager, we've got the items of hardware that that person is using. It's also listing the departments that they are part of, and it tells us that they report to the director. So there's a hierarchy there. That hierarchy is in this order: director, senior manager, typist. So in fact, the typist reports to senior manager. Senior manager reports to director. Director doesn't report to anyone. So looking at the individual pages, we've got, this is where records are entered. So you create an individual's page, and you've got two ordinary page parts, the first name and the last name. And then we've got a relations page part. This is made simply by adding a page part and selecting relations and naming it. So I've made the relations page part here, and these are the items of hardware that that person is using. So we've got the computer, the monitor, and the printer that that person is using. Nothing in the body. Pretty simple to create a new record. On the other side, we've got the individual items of hardware. These don't require a relations page part, but I've put the brand and the year as ordinary page parts, and there's nothing in the body. That's how I've organised it. So it's quite simple to make new records for new pieces of hardware, and you can create new records for individual employees, and it's with the individual employees that have the relations page part that has a relationship between the different pieces of hardware. So how does it all happen? There's a schema, and the two critical pages where the schema is the employee and the hardware pages at the top of these tiers. Let's have a look at those. Employee and hardware. Now the hardware page has a relations part page where I'm linking back to employee. The employee page doesn't have a relations page part because the individual employees have relations to these. Both of these pages have an extended page part that I've created where there is the schema. I can copy and paste that schema into the page of the video, but both of these have a page part called extended where my schema resides using radius code. And in fact the body of the employee also has a little bit of a radius code, whereas the body of hardware is empty. So it's important that we've got these three tiers here. We've managed to get a hierarchical arrangement between these. We also need to create a relationship to department, and that's created at this level, the middle tier. So the director has a relations page part where the two departments are. Nothing in the body, and then I've chosen to put a description in there as well. And these departments don't need a relations page part. They're essentially just a page title and ID. Once the schema is put together, it's pretty easy, and it's very simple to create new records for the database. So that's my example database, relational database in Radiant Content Management System.